The ugly pretty girl. You've seen her story. She'd be so pretty if she just took off those glasses and rags, or just lost some weight, or just put on a little makeup.
Scary and inaccessible is another story.
After her makeover, we see that people treat her better, that her life becomes more fulfilling, and that she comes closer to realizing who she actually is. This trope teaches us that if we go through a makeover and fit in with the predominant standards of beauty and femininity, our life might come together in the same way.
Are you wearing the
Chanel boots? Yeah, I am.
You look good.
But this lesson doesn't actually hold water in real life. For instance, the actors behind these characters are often already stereotypically beautiful, so the supposed drama of the makeover is fabricated. And obviously, the idea that we need a physical makeover in order to be happy is harmful, since it adds to the already overwhelming societal pressure to look and be a certain way.
Yeah, I don't want to do this anymore. And my buttons, they don't feel nothing like steel.
But the ugly to pretty girl story can also teach us about the link between inner and outer beauty, and how confidence in one can lead to confidence in the other. And that transformation doesn't have to happen from the outside in. It can also happen from the inside out, or through some combination of the two. In 2022, ideas of beauty and self-acceptance feel far more fluid than ever. So does the old school ugly pretty girl story even work in today's context? Here's our take on where this trope is headed and what its stories are saying today about the real difference between ugly and pretty. The ugly pretty girl has often been cast as a kind of diamond in the rough.
Me? A princess? Shut up!
Like in the ugly duckling fable, she has great potential beauty. It's just that her beauty is hidden under a bad outfit, unflattering glasses, or a lack of effort. And this holds her back from becoming who she really is, according to others who are often of higher social status.
Would you look at that girl? She is so adorably clueless. We've got to adopt her.
As she apparently comes into herself through embodying beauty norms and following the people who see potential in her, she often rises in social stature. In My Fair Lady, this is made explicit, with snobbish Professor Higgins working on Eliza Doolittle's etiquette and eloquence, effectively her class status, alongside her appearance.
The rain in Spain stays mainly in the plain.
I think she's got it.
The same is true in The Princess Diaries. Mia doesn't want anyone to see her.
My expectation in life is to be invisible.
But who she truly is, according to her bloodline, is a princess who's destined to be widely seen and adored. And if she is to become who she is within this social hierarchy, she has to undergo the ugly pretty transformation.
I can teach you to walk, talk, sit, stand, eat, dress like a princess.
In a similar story, She's All That, the status aspect is key too. This time, however, it's not about the political, but the high school elite. It's now popular guy Zach's project to turn the awkward, sullen Lainey Boggs into prom queen. And again, this is equated with her coming into herself. When we first meet Lainey, not only is she swallowed up by unflattering overalls and mismatched clothing, we also get the impression that she's not connecting to the real her, and that this may be to numb the grief over losing her mom.
I read about this riot in Mogadishu. This represents the pain of that night.
Which part represents you?
The gradual makeover she undergoes then isn't really about her looks, but about her taking back control of her life and not allowing this sadness to define her.
Can I have the last dance?
You can have the first.
The makeovers these teenage girls undergo allow their inner beauty to come through, and there is some truth to the idea that cultivating conventional beauty and feeling happy about your looks can improve your self-confidence. According to a OnePoll survey, about 75% of women surveyed said they felt more empowered when they thought they looked good, and this resulted in more positive interactions with others. Beauty rituals can also be a form of self-care. In Legally Blonde, when Elle inspires her friends at the nail salon to flaunt their attractiveness through her iconic bend and snap routine, it's not really about changing how they look. It's about helping them feel more confident, valuable, and owning what they've already got.
Trust me, Paulette, you have all the equipment. You just need to read the manual.
But why does this ugly duckling transformation on screen have to happen in this direction, from outer to inner? It's both discouraging and misleading to see so many stories present physical beauty as a prerequisite for feeling happy, supported, or becoming who we really are. In Miss Congeniality, Gracie is not seen as traditionally feminine or beautiful, and because of this is completely degendered, desexualized, and made fun of.
What is it, like a woman thing?
Don't kid yourself. Nobody thinks of you that way.
Yet, despite this negative feedback from her peers, she gets a sense of self-assuredness and confidence through her work, and in fact, only undergoes a makeover for her job, after she's stunned by how her new outer beauty leads people to notice her more in general.
This experience has been one of the most rewarding and liberating experiences of my life.
These older, ugly, pretty stories then send the message that even if you do pretty much know and like who you are, complying with beauty standards is the only way to completely self-actualize and make others see you for you. Do you ever feel like you need a makeover? Not physically, but in terms of your skill set? This video's sponsor, Masterclass, can help. Masterclass is an amazing streaming platform offering so much content to learn from. There are over 2,500 classes on there from more than 180 instructors. And when I say instructors, I'm talking leaders in their fields. Want to learn how to improve your singing? Head to Mariah Carey's lesson on using your voice as an instrument. Or want to become an amazing cook? Gordon Ramsay has a series of classes that you can dive right into. Personally, I love creative writing. So I was delighted when I downloaded the Masterclass app and saw a class by one of my favorite writers, Neil Gaiman, on storytelling. One of the things I struggle with is making my characters feel real, and he really helped me to work out what I was getting wrong. I'm so much closer to finishing my novel now, and I'm so proud of it too. One of the best parts for me is that you don't have to sit down and take a whole class at once. They're broken into sections, so you can watch them when you have time. I love doing it on my commute. I highly recommend you check it out. This holiday, give the perfect gift of an annual Masterclass membership and get one free. Go to masterclass.com/thetake today. That's masterclass.com/thetake. Terms apply. In many of these transformations, the girl is never not conventionally pretty in the first place.
You're like really pretty.
So what we're really seeing is a coming-of-age story about a girl going from sexless to sexy through changing her look and/or attitude. In Greece, Sandy is pretty enough for Danny's summer fling, but she's not accepted by the popular group because she largely refuses to sexualize herself until the film's final scene, when, in her new tight clothing, she's at last welcomed into the Pink Ladies and can openly date Danny.
Sandy?
Tell me about it, stud.
Similarly, in Dirty Dancing, Frances is already pretty at the start, but she seems young, boyish, and desexualized. The fact that she's called Baby and is so close with her father infantilizes her.
Max, our baby's gonna change the world.
Through emancipating herself from that father-daughter relationship and developing an adult romance with her hot dance instructor, she undergoes something similar to the ugly pretty transformation. She becomes sexualized through her dancing, which manifests in her appearance. By the film's end, she's in a low-cut backless dress and high heels and highly sensuous and in control of her body movements. So here, more overt sexuality is presumed to come along with maturity. On the flip side, Baby's transition is also about opening her snobby upper-middle-class family's eyes to the expressive value of the working-class character's sensual dancing.
You wanted me to change the world, make it better. But you meant by becoming a lawyer or an economist. I'm not proud of myself.
And in some stories, character sexualities need to be toned down in order to fit beauty and femininity standards, especially of a certain class. In Pretty Woman, Vivian has to desexualize herself to embody elite beauty and social norms, as she transforms into the kind of tastefully dressed person who fits in at the Beverly Wilshire Hotel, a far cry from how she was styled the first night there when she caused a stir.
Close your mouth, dear.
It's less about changing how she actually looks, and more about adopting the signifiers of having money.
We may be going out evenings. You'll need something to wear.
Like what?
Nothing too flashy, too sexy. Conservative.
In a spiritual update to My Fair Lady, Edward guides Vivian through this class transformation, which involves not just dressing Vivian the right way, but also exposing her to high culture and instructing her in proper behavior.
Okay, stop fidgeting. Get rid of your gum.
But again, this lower to upper class transformation is presented as a proxy for becoming the real her. In her life as a sex worker, Vivian is framed as being disassociated from who she actually is. When new potential client Edward asks her name, she offers to be whatever he wants, and seems almost in disguise when she's working on the street.
Do you think I look like Carol Channing?
As she blossoms into the more upper class Vivian, she both seems more comfortable being herself and more empowered to assert her own boundaries and value.
What are you gonna do there? Get a job, finish high school. You know, I got things I can do, I used to make pretty good grades in high school.
Still, the film's fairy tale happy ending is that, in her new form, Vivian gets the happy ever after romance with Rich Edward, so it ends up perpetuating the message that molding your expression of beauty and sexuality to fit socially prescribed external ideals will attract the ideal partner, which will lead to ultimate happiness. As the saying goes, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. It's not an objective standard. And attraction? That's even more subjective and interactive. Wendy Paris writes in Psychology Today, our movements and gestures, our emotional expressiveness, how much we light up when speaking to someone we just met, are all components of dynamic attraction. We see this with Shrek's Princess Fiona. She may be more stereotypically beautiful in her human form, but as an ogre she feels attractive to her love Shrek, and in the sequels, authentic and uninhibited to herself.
I'm supposed to be beautiful.
But you are beautiful.
In recent years, we're seeing more examples of characters who reflect that ugly pretty transformations can happen not only through following beauty ideals, but through building self-confidence, which will ultimately have an effect on how you present yourself to the world. In other words, from inner to the outer. In Shrill, Annie's external world frequently sends her the message that she should feel ashamed and insecure about how she looks.
You don't have to settle for this.
You should think about gastric bypass. You're at a good age for it.
And initially, Annie accepts that she should apologize for her body, politely receive strangers' advice about how to change it, and settle for less in her personal and professional lives.
You're cool with going out the back again, right?
Yeah.
But what makes her start to feel better is not an upheaval to her diet or exercise routine. It's ceasing to acquiesce to these wider assumptions about her. She blossoms through finding a community which helps her live with less shame and feel beautiful. She does change how she looks, but the change comes from affirming who she already is. Choosing clothes not to hide herself, but instead to show off her body.
I'm honestly thinking about buying a crop top, which I gotta say was not in the cards for me before, but I just gotta get in that pool.
Annie's journey is similar to that of Will in Dumplin'. Throughout, Will's weight clashes with her mom's ideals, as well as her interest in beauty pageants. But instead of changing who she is to fit into the pageant world, Will's able to convince her mom that she belongs there without changing. Her ugly pretty transformation then is centered around finding support for who she already is.
I am Dumpling. I am Will. I am Willowdene. I'm a beauty queen.
And I Feel Pretty, after Renee has a fall, she suddenly wakes up with a newfound confidence in her looks that transforms her whole life, making her ultimately realize that the key to feeling empowered isn't altering her appearance, but altering how she thinks about it.
What if we never lost that little girl confidence?
Senior Year has a similar premise. When a pretty popular high school senior wakes up from a 20-year coma, she has to undergo an inner beauty transformation, realizing that valuing true friends over popularity is what makes you a happy and good person inside. This simple yet profound idea that focusing on what's inside is the key to getting our lives on track is the core of plenty of classic stories going back centuries. In the 1897 play Cyrano de Bergerac, a nobleman who's insecure about his big nose uses a more handsome proxy to deliver his love letters to the woman he loves, Roxanne. And this story has been retold countless times in adaptations like Roxanne, The Truth About Cats and Dogs, The Half of It, and Sierra Burgess's Loser. In all of these stories, the character woos their love behind the disguise of a more conventionally attractive person. But eventually, when the love object finds out the truth, it's the writer they really care about, because love is truly about connection with a person's deepest nature, and not just a pretty face.
You are exactly my type. I mean, you're smart and funny and beautiful and talented.
In recent years, we're seeing the rise of an ugly pretty fashion sense that doesn't seek to erase the so-called ugly part, but actively embraces what it adds to the picture. Once upon a time, Croc shoes, bucket hats, and sweater vests were all firmly in the ugly bracket, but now they, and other once ugly items, are desirable specifically because they're different from the pretty norm.
You can either go hard with the gibbets, or you can just do like one little subtle one, and I think it's really fun to just have that one little subtle pop.
The shifting cycles of trends means that what was previously out is eventually likely to come in. Amanda Brahman writes in CR Fashion Book that the new ugly fashion trend could be a continuation of normcore, prioritizing unpretentious clothing in reaction to earlier hipster and alternative movements that were hyper-focused on distinguishing the self from the mainstream. But Brahman adds that the ugly trend may also be connected to the #MeToo movement, and the idea that women aren't just beauty or sexual objects, but complex human beings who deserve to be respected for whatever their unique mixtures of inner and outer beauty may be. So in this context, the updated Ugly Pretty Girl story teaches us that it's not really about how we look, but about how we feel. For a makeover of any form to be successful, it has to bring us closer to who we really are and who we want to share ourselves with. That can be done through a flattering outfit or a full face of makeup, yes, but also through enjoying our hobbies, supporting our communities, living by our values, or donning a pair of Crocs.
Find out who you are and try not to be afraid of it.
If you're new here, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified about all of our new videos.